What's going on, everybody? My name's Danny, aka Captain Sin. This is episode 4 of Chattin with Captain, live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Captain Sin. Our guest tonight is Limp Bizkit guitar player Wes Borland. How's it going tonight?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being
where does
here.
Captain Sin come from?
Sinister Gates from Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, okay.
When I was 14. I've had this gamer tag and whatever since I was 14 years old, and I just ran with it for the past 16, 17 years.
Yeah, it sticks.
It's stuck and it's worked out so far, so I'm pretty happy with it.
When you game on here, what are you mostly playing?
Lately, it's been like 80s arcade games and like 90s games and everything.
Right.
It's been really fun. Like the old Ninja Turtles arcade game and everything like that has been really fun. A lot of people, they're into the retro stuff. Retro seems like it's really coming back lately.
Especially because you can get like every game ever in like one machine.
Yes, yes.
Flip through all of it.
Yes, which is really great. And it seems like a lot of the newer bands are going to like that old 80s synthwave sound. Like that's starting to come back more as well.
Because of Stranger Things and
yes, that's a big thing.
All that Carpenter Brute, all that stuff.
I really enjoy Carpenter Brute and Perturbator and all those bands. Like, really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's super good. It's super good.
So I usually ask everybody what the first album, well, not really the first album, but like the main album from when you were younger that has influenced you throughout your entire career so far. One that has stuck with you for all these years.
Probably Metallica, Kill 'Em All.
Nice.
The first, that was the first. I was skating a lot when I was. I'm 16 years older than you are. I think you're 30.
Yes.
All right, I'm 46. So I was skating in the 80s and like during the height of like the Bones Brigade, and I was listening to like the Misfits and Black Flag and Minor Threat and Circle Jerks and Subhumans and Dead Kennedys and The Damned and all of that. And that's when I also started playing guitar around that age, like 12. And then my next door neighbor gave me the tape Kill 'Em All by Metallica. And that's the first time I heard like riffs and, like thrash music and went, oh, this changes everything.
That was.
Why would somebody in the chat think I'm a Justice for All guy? I mean, yeah, I love Justice for All too. But Kill 'Em All was the first one that I heard. So Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master Puppets. And Justice for All is awesome too. There's no bass on the record because they like turned it all the way down and just like pumped the guitars, which is fine because I love all the classical guitar playing that carried over from Master of Puppets into Justice for All. And that same kind of style, but man, I love Cliff Burton. So
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, that was like my parents, who are actually watching right now. Hi, how you guys doing? They listened to like a lot of 80s hair metal and everything, and like 70s like Black Sabbath and all that. So I kind of grew up on all that.
I was not a hair metal person.
But my first concert was Kiss when I was like 8 years old. So that was
awesome.
Huge for me to dive down the rabbit hole, and that's led to Ghost is my favorite band right now, and I think that's got something to do with it, which I think that a lot of bands lately need to, I guess, get more of a stage show, because it seems like there's a lot of bands lately that they can go up on stage and kill it the whole time, but they just stand there and they don't move, and it's like I feel like you got to have something visual with it too.
I mean, the only person that I think can stand there and not move is like Robert Smith from The Cure, because like he'll go and like not move and just stand and play guitar at the microphone. It's so amazing. And then he'll do like one thing, like touch his hair, and then everyone loses their minds. And then there's people that like, I don't know, like what's his name from Dillinger Escape Plan? The guitar player that now plays in Suicidal Tendencies, who's just flipping over backwards and falling all over everything, and, like cracking his skull open, just head full of oatmeal and he's like still playing. Not that he has a head full of oatmeal,
right?
But it's like that, just bleeding everywhere. But that is, I mean, it's a big difference and amazing. But I'm all for a show being fun. Ben Weinman, thank you, chat.
Yep, there it is.
There it is, Ben Weinman. Yeah, but I definitely have always been more leaning in that direction than, just
Right.
standing there and playing.
Now, actually, I wanted to talk to you about somebody brought up the 4-string PRS. We'll get into that. But I actually
also the drummer for Ghost, he's not currently playing for Ghost, but the last drummer of Ghost that was the uh, sort of like band director and touring drummer played on my last solo record. He did all the drums on the Astral Hand.
Oh, somebody from Space Zebras here. Who is it? Is it Bobby or Jake?
Trivia. I don't know. I think Bobby's traveling today.
Oh, right. Yeah. But anyway, we'll get into the PRS, but I wanted to talk about the Yamaha from back in the day. Your signature.
Yeah.
That had a really like unique body build to it.
Well, it was heavily I was playing Fender Starcasters a lot at the time, and it was really influenced by Fender Starcasters, and then which that have only recently Fender kind of made a new version of the Starcaster, which is great, but it definitely needs some upgrading in certain areas to make it a guitar that I like to play. But the Fender Starcaster mixed with those sort of that PRS cut on the bottom, there's a little bit of that influence, and then the top is that sort of angular top of the guitar is what's called a German carve around there. I worked with the designers at Yamaha for a long time, getting like the size right and everything. And then a lot of people were sort of weirded out by having a floating tremolo in a semi-hollow body guitar, but I didn't care. And it was just like, this works for me. And we ended up it wasn't Art Deco-ish, it was Art Nouveau-ish. The headstock was inspired by the main architect of the Art Nouveau movement, whose name was Hector Guimard, and he designed all the Paris subway stations.
Nice.
So if you've ever seen those green subway stations that have like the lights that come over the top, he did all of that design work and built a bunch of buildings and houses throughout France. And Hector Guimard was quickly forgotten because Gaudi, who's mostly known for the Art Nouveau movement, sort of like took precedence over him. That's why people say that looks gaudy to me. It's because they're referencing Gaudi, which is like a completely over the top Art Nouveau architect and artist who also designed the cathedral in Barcelona that they've been working on it with those 4 spires. They've been working on that for like decades and decades and decades. But anyway, really heavily, I was really into him at the time that we were designing that guitar. But it was a very short-lived movement because Art Deco came in really quickly and sort of like made everyone forget about it because it only. Oh, well, look at that.
Oh, thank you.
Gifted subs. Thanks, Melanie.
Oh, and actually, I wanted to tell everybody I have my notifications turned off. That way, a bunch of notifications don't pop in during the audio because I'm going to be taking this audio and put it on Spotify and everything. So I kind of try to keep all like the bells and whistles out of it. But
bing, bing,
yes, what was it called? What was it called? Takumi Kazuri was the body style. How it was
the way they were building it. I don't remember. I haven't thought about them. That's the way that it was like a way that they built chambers into it, or like I don't really remember what that part was all about. But no, it was really cool to get to do like a little run of these things and with Yamaha, and then all at the same time. Yamaha, because of Mike Tempesta, who's John Tempesta's, the drummer's brother. John Tempesta's in the Cult. He was in Rob Zombie's. He was in White Zombie for a long time. And then John Tempesta's brother, Mike Tempesta, got like me involved when he became the artist relations person at Yamaha. He got me involved. He got Aaron North from the Icarus line and 9 Inch Nails involved. He got Mastodon came over and was working. Troy Van Leeuwen from Queens of the Stone Age. Like he had all these people who were really working on designing cool guitars, and they were asking us like all these things about. I'm sure you've heard me tell this story in the Space Super podcast before, but then they met with us and all of us asked us what we thought about all these new designs that they had that were just not our thing. They looked like white balsa wood super light guitars that had like rings of light around the pickups and the volume knobs, and we were just like, this isn't what we would play or what we would want. And they were like, okay, thanks for your time. And then they made all that stuff anyway and sort of like let all of us go and didn't want to make our signature models anymore. So it was weird. I think somebody like, and then Mike Tempesta quit and went to Jackson and Jackson Charvel. And I said, can I come with you over there? And he's like, yeah, man, let's go. So we left and went and did that.
And everybody was asking about the new PRS, the 4-string.
Yeah, and now I'm working with PRS again, and we are talking about doing a new, I'll grab it in a second, but we were talking about doing an SE version of that.
That would be cool.
Because I never thought we would do that because it's such a specific tuning, because it's like an AADG tuning with an octave between the A's. But yeah, I think it's a possibility. There seems to be a lot of interest. We would probably do like a short run, like maybe 250 guitars or 200 guitars to see if it worked. And
right. So is that like the neck build, like the string spacing? Is that like?
I'll grab.
All right, yeah. Thank you guys for all the gifted subs. I appreciate it.
So the string spacing is a little bit. Let me see how much of this you can see because I'm looking at our. Oh, there you go. All right. So the string spacing is like a little less than a bass and a little more than a guitar. That's why I use either like EMGs or I have to use Dimebucker pickups because they have blades instead of pull points. So it's just easier. But this is a guitar pickup. Humbucker, this is a bass pickup, and that's a guitar pickup. And these two pickups are on the same circuit, and I've got the toggle switch, to change between those. This is the bass volume for that pickup, and the guitar volume is back here for these two. And then I've got, sorry, dealing with this microphone. Then it's got two separate outputs there,
nice.
One for guitar, one for bass. And then it's got a locking tuners there. And it's got a Kahler tremolo.
Nice.
So it's tuned like. But it's made basically to have those really fast interchanges between the same string but tuned an octave apart, so you can do like
right. Yeah, that's actually really cool. So did you play a lot of 7 strings back in the day?
For a while. I when we first started touring, Korn took us out for like the first 3 tours that we did. We were supporting Korn, and they basically, like, I met Rob Nishida, who at the head of the time was the A&R at Ibanez, and Rob was like, hey man, we're looking for more people to play 7 strings. If you want, we'll give you free 7 strings. And I went 100% yes. I'll do that. Yeah. And it was like, I will definitely play 7 strings, because at the time I was playing 6 strings. And Hype Train.
Oh, Hype Train. Here we go.
You. But yeah, I just was like, yeah. So I went, this doesn't work for me. So I'll just tune the 2 high strings to the same note and have it be like a 6 string that has 2 of the same note high strings. And just ended up writing on it, except not really using the top strings very much. It was just sort of like playing an aircraft carrier fretboard with like getting used to a string that I wasn't used to, but I did play them for a while and ended up doing some like dissonant stuff with the two strings that were tuned to the same note. Um, but I don't, I got sort of disenchanted with them and ended up getting more into like vintage gear and weirder guitars and my four string. I think that I really liked the four string tuning being so simple and also very different from other guitars. I love simplicity and I love when there are parameters put on things so that I have less to work with.
Right.
Because I feel like you get more creative the less stuff you have to work with.
Right.
So you have to really think and like instead of like when I'm playing a four string, if I want to jump to a note, it's not just right there and convenient for me to grab. I have to like jump to it
Right.
way up high, and it's also so it forces me to play in a way that's different and more like like execute a little more like guitar gymnastics when I'm doing a riff, and ends up like really having that sliding action to where you get to like whoop,
Right.
and that which is also the reason that I use the tremolo when I play riffs. So having this for the first time, where I have a tremolo with a four string, it allows me to do. I mean, who knows what I haven't even like really gotten into this yet. I've just been like playing it on the couch, and I've hooked it up to like a practice amp at my house right now.
So, with that being said, have you messed around with the axe effects, like all of those type of things, or?
I just line six. I'm just becoming a line six artist now for the first time, and they've sent me um, over the crap the amazing what is it called? The thing that they just sent me. I can't believe I'm blanking out on this. This is ridiculous and so insulting to line six right now. The Helix, the Helix. I didn't
Oh,
even
right,
have to
right, right,
look.
yeah.
The Helix. I just lost the name for a second. I was like, the Halo, the Humphrey, the Fragonard. What is the Helix? But anyway, the Helix. I'm just getting into that, and it's amazing. It's and they actually sent me a cabinet to hook it up to that's powered, so it's like having a full guitar rig.
Nice.
Yeah, Nick Audio, they have come a long way. Like they the Helix is so deep, but it's also so intuitive uh, that you I've actually found out that you can put like up to two or three inputs into it with different outputs. So I can run multiple instruments
Oh,
through
wow.
the Helix and set up different chains, which is also perfect for the four strings. So I can have a guitar and a bass input and use two completely different sets of effects pedals, like virtual effects pedals in the Helix, and then have those going to two completely separate outputs.
That's
So it's great for this instrument.
that's cool. Like, I didn't know if you would be more of like a bare bones type
I am
of.
bare bones
Right.
normally, yes, but this is the first time that I'm like giving it because um, Kemper sent me a head one time, one of their heads, and I didn't click with it, and I sent it back to
Mm.
them, and I think maybe they were offended. I'm not sure, but I was just like, I don't know, man. This is like it's not my thing, and it doesn't sound as good as just to me as a head and a cab. But I
Right.
have worked with like Guitar Rig for like the plugin for like Pro Tools or Logic. The Guitar Rig plugin I found is pretty great. And for the second Big Dumb Face record, one of the songs I did it was done through uh, just like completely done through plugins, and then the rest of the record is all done with actual head and cabinet and recording, and you can't really tell the difference.
Anymore,
But
it seems like, yeah,
it's
like,
really close.
yeah, it's gotten to that
It's
point.
hard to tell the difference.
I know a lot of bands have been using like the axe effects and stuff like that just to like be able to mimic the album sound perfectly without having to hope that your knobs don't get screwed up while you're
Right.
going from show to show and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good, but it for me it's a little sterile to do that live.
Mm.
I kind of like how rooms change and dialing in and having like tube heads live. But the I toured with the band Failure for a while. Have you ever heard of
I
Failure
think I've heard of them. Yeah.
before? Okay. Anyway, Failure is Ken Andrews, the singer of Failure, mixed a bunch of the Paramore records, and he's just very he was more became more of kind of a behind the scenes person, and one of the other members in Failure was in Autolux and A Perfect Circle, but they uh they used Axe Effects every night, and their sound check went on for like 4 hours of them just like, but I mean, everything sounded they had all the sounds from their record,
Mhm.
and it sounded perfect. But they had no amps on stage. They were all on in-ears, which I'm a recent in-ears user because I've had so many years of having my ears just like caved in by cymbals and side fills in my own amps that I've tinnitus now. But
Oof.
at least I've stopped it and I'm like taking care of my ears now, but
Mhm.
my ears ring all the time. But they were just so it was too clinical for me. It was like uh just having everything be Axe Effects was just like and the amount of time they took, because I like a little bit of like things for a band called Failure. They sure were successful in everything they did, but because I like a little bit of like, oh, is the train going to come off the tracks vibe in my shows, to where there's a
Right.
little bit of uncertainty.
Um, do you have any guitars from back in the day that you still play on all the time, like an old reliable that's just
Yeah, I have my first and second guitar that I ever owned. I have the first guitar that I bought for $80 in Nashville, Tennessee, from mowing lawns still, and I don't play it. I keep it more. I mean, I pick it up every once in a while, but I'm like, this is not as good as the other guitars that I that I have. But it's more just nice to keep as a relic of the past. Uh, a lot of my guitars I sold. I got rid of. I just didn't want them anymore. It was just like these are just sitting around, and I would rather like have people who actually want these and care about like the times they came from.
right?
Uh, I'd rather those go out into the world because I have a big problem with buying gear. The amount of gear I own is it's so much. Like I have so much studio gear, it's so many amps, so many guitars. I think I probably own like 78 guitars or something
Wow.
like that, like guitars, basses, violins, cellos. I have a French horn. I've got two saxophones. I've got a Daduke. I've got a Takahashi. I've got two Rhodes, a piano, uh, cabs upon cabs upon cabs, like 412 cabs, four bass amps. I mean, it's out of like I have three consoles. I've got mic pre's. I've got four Pro Tools rigs. I've got like 9 sets of studio speakers. So I basically had to be like, this has to end.
Right.
Like it's too like the amount like right now because I just moved. I moved to Detroit and then from LA and then back to LA from Detroit, and uh because of the pandemic and because it's a seller's market, I don't want to buy a house right now. So I sold my house in Detroit. I'm in like apartment living right now in like a 2-bedroom apartment where I have like the bedroom and then a studio set up in this bedroom. And I don't, and all my shit's in storage. So my storage bill every month is
Oof.
like, it's crazy, but I had to basically go like, you know what? I've got all these guitars from the past that just sit in the cases, and I'm spending all this money on gear. And if I'm going to keep outfitting my studio and buying gear, I need to start selling gear.
Right.
And it was really like, oh, I'll put these guitars in the hands of people that really want them and will really like them.
Mm.
Um, so I got rid of some that way. Others I auctioned off for charities, like when Japan got hit by the tsunami. And there's been a one for a COVID charity here. We've done them for Space Zebra. It's just like I like to keep them moving through. But I guess there are two of my original 4 strings that this guy named George Gordoninsky made, who's a Latvian luthier, that DJ Lethal from Limp Bizkit introduced me to through his dad, Gracia DeMont, who's passed away, R.I.P. But he introduced me to that guy, and I've had those guitars for 22 years now,
Nice.
and they're still my live guitars.
Nice.
So yeah.
Actually, somebody in the chat asked a question that I was actually going to get to.
Yeah.
So do you remember how you created Sour with the guitar? I was basically going to jump into like that, but more of like, it seems like a lot of your riffs are more like percussive tapping ways, sort of.
Yeah, some like Stalemate, Sour, Rearranged was like all sort of two-hand tapping stuff. That comes from just being obsessed with Les Claypool from Primus and trying to like attack the guitar like a bass. I've always liked the bass more as an instrument than guitar, but I ended up being a guitar player for some reason. But I think mainly because I wanted to be a drummer first, but my parents were like, you can't have a drum kit. No way. It's not happening. So I was just like, okay, well, I'll pick up the next best thing was like bass or guitar. So I picked up guitar and then just started trying to, like, I didn't have any money for pedals. I had a guitar and like a little practice amp. So I just started messing around, and the guitar had my second guitar had a tremolo on it, a Floyd Rose tremolo. And I was like, what can I do with this? How can I make sounds with it? And just started messing around with different ways that you can like flick and bend and push the tremolo, and how can I make this sound like a robot? Like all the, how can I make this sound like a drum kit? How can I get, like bass drum sounds out of it? And just started like seeing what parts of my hands I could hit the guitar or push the guitar in, or, when you can palm the strings of the guitar and push them against the pickup and it'll go like, oink,
yeah,
and just do all these, all this crazy stuff. But then when I got into effects pedals, I was like, I was like, I already have all these effects that I figured out how to do by just like messing with, like, basically molesting the guitar and using it for things that it wasn't meant to be used for, pushing it around and basically just like beating the guitar up. And then when I applied effects, especially when I got into delay pedals, because that's what I'm mostly known for as a guitar player, by having just like a insane amount of delay pedals on my pedal board. Most of them are for different sounds or for different timings. But yeah, that really made me go crazy and sparked like a whole nother thing. So
it seems like later on it was more of, you kind of took the distortion out of your tone and did more of like a clean tone, and the bass really kind of came through more.
Yeah, I mean, I play clean a lot, and I use JC120s as my clean amps live, which are solid state non-tube clean amps that are so loud. And Fred Durst, the singer of Limp Bizkit, has accused me multiple times of his contributing to his hearing loss or being responsible for it. And I'm like, dude, you got to wear earplugs then. Don't come over to my side of the stage. You're gonna get blasted by my clean amps, because they're just so like, pow. Yeah. And they're louder than my distortion amps, which you wouldn't think is the case, but they are, because I've just got two combo amp. Like, it's a Roland jazz chorus, and it's like, oh, so it's a jazz amp. And it's like, no, they're 120 watts each, with two like just ripping 12s in each one. So I've got 4 12s of clean, just decapitating anything that comes in front of it.
I know I had a 5153 and a Mesa 412.
Oh, those are great.
Which was entirely too loud for me. I was just barely able to turn that thing up to 1, and it was just.
When we do travel dates, I use either Orange Tiny Terrors, or I use the EVH 3 15-watt heads, and nobody can tell, because we put them in a Pelican case and we carry them on if we're going to go play like Malaysia, or if we were going to play somewhere and we don't want to rent amps. We just get cabs, and then we bring our own heads and our wireless in like a Pelican case.
Nice.
And you'd never know that I'm playing 15-watt heads on stage, because they're just like, I mean, it's so loud.
So loud.
You don't need to carry like.
Yeah, those heads are massive too. The 5153s, those are a lot bigger than normal heads.
I never play those anymore. The biggest I go now are the 50 watts. They're just like, that big.
Right.
Just like a 1.5 feet across.
Actually, somebody in chat asked what your favorite pedal is to use.
The Echoplex Tape Echo. That's sort of like the classic like Maestro, uh, the EP3 tape echo, solid state Echoplex. It's the best echo sound. But I'm actually doing I'm working with this guy Justin Molman, who's the editor of Heavy Metal magazine, and also has all this other stuff that he has in the works all the time on developing my own delay pedal right now.
Nice.
So, and we're about to, they're about to send me the second prototype of it, and this is going to be, we're going to do a bunch that are custom painted, and then there'll be just like a screen printed standard version. But I'm so excited for people to get this, because it's really, it's nothing. We're not reinventing the wheel or anything like that, but it's not a tape delay, but it sounds like a tape delay. It sounds analog, but it's still like punchy, like a digital delay. And you get two duplicate pedals in one pedal there's two delay pedals in one pedal that you can choose to either link together and have two delays in one pedal, or you can run two instruments through it with two different outputs.
Oh, nice.
Through it. So, and everything's going to be on faders, like a little mixing console instead of knobs. All the timing will be on faders.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's going to be really neat. And there's also like a glitch mode too that you can put on it where it'll just like flip out.
Oh, wow.
Almost like a circuit bent thing. So
that would be
it's gonna
really
be
cool. What kind of tunings do you usually like to play in?
I play in E and drop D, and this, standard E and then drop D, and then the four strings are tuned either AADG. They're tuned either AADG or F sharp BE, and then Bizkit tunes to C sharp standard, or we do drop B, like drop D like drop B, but for C sharp to C sharp.
Which one do you prefer out of?
I like playing in C sharp just because it's familiar. I really I prefer playing my four strings in the higher tuning, the AADG, but because I think that it's more like a piano string, like just like instead of F sharp. Four string tuning gets a little floppy, but not much. But I don't like I've never liked the 7-string guitar with a low B on it, because it just sounds too floppy to me. And I feel like the low string also interferes with the B on a 7-string. The low B interferes with the E. They're just too close together, and I feel like when you play hard, that they kind of rattle. There's a chance that it could rattle a little bit. And with my four strings, the strings are spaced far enough apart, and it's a 26.5-inch scale, and the gauges are heavy enough, because the low A is an 80 from a bass. It's an 80 gauge bass string. It's just pulled so tight that it's just like clear and not floppy.
I didn't. So. I thought that would have a longer scale on it. It seems like it's a really long guitar, but
it's not. I mean, it's almost like a tenor guitar. Like it's not long. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
But like compared to, hey, let me grab this. Hang on one second. Oh. Like this is another guitar I use a lot, this is a vintage Fender 6, and that's the same scale as a Mustang bass.
Oh wow!
So it's the same length as a bass, and then it's got a mastery bridge on it to like make it better than it originally was. But that's what there's a LB song called Walking Away that's recorded on this. It's like these strings are dead. Anyway, yeah, it's much shorter scale than that. That scale's like a short bass scale. No, it's not a 1962, it's a 64.
Oh,
that
close.
close.
I usually have an issue with playing with dead strings because I have like really oily and like acidic sweat in my fingers. So like I go through strings way too fast.
Yeah, I've heard that about some people.
It really sucks.
Yeah.
I have
But
a,
for if you're playing bass, dead strings are awesome.
oh yeah,
because you want that like just like dead flat wound sound almost. But
I have a,
for guitar, yeah,
right. I have a ESP Eclipse. Which
yeah,
I'm a really big fan of that. But it's like changing strings all the time really sucks. It is terrible.
you need the electric drill attachment, so you know, or just get locking tuners on it.
Oh, this has the tuners. They're locking tuners, and they have this like metal like edge on the side of them, to where you, as you're turning it, it cuts the string on its own.
What?
Yeah,
I've never heard of that before.
the post is like diagonal, so as you're tuning it, it just spins it around and it hits this flat edge and it cuts the end
So
off
you don't
of
have
it.
to clip your strings at all?
No, not at all.
That's so weird.
I just pull it through, tighten the back screw, and then give it one turn. It snaps it off right there.
Oh, that's
It's the
so cool.
quickest guitar change I've
That's
ever
amazing.
did. Yeah.
Yes, I use Ernie Ball strings. They asked in the chat.
I
Ernie
also,
Balls, man.
I also like Ernie balls. I'm more of a slinky type, I would say.
Yeah, Slinkies.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
100%.
I buy singles because I make up I never use except if I'm playing in like E standard or drop D, I'll use super slinkies. But Biscuit string tuning is very specific. Gauges that they don't make, and 4 strings obviously are specific gauges that they don't make. So yeah.
A lot of the time on here we talk about like collectibles and everything. Is there anything that you collect that's
Yeah, I collect edge weapons, armor, I collect tiki mugs, I collect human remains. I used to collect taxidermy, but I got rid of a lot of it because it was just too cumbersome. I collect oddities. Um, uh, I've been collecting all my grandfather's stuff. He was a torpedo bomber in World War II
nice.
in the Pacific, so I've been I've got his bomber jacket and his lighters and his medals and all of like the knives and stuff that he brought back from the war. I've got a silk map of the South Pacific of escape routes that
Oh wow.
fighter pilots could they could keep with them, and it wouldn't disintegrate if they got wet. Don't say okay, Josh Balls. I've been around this motherfucker before Josh Balls was collecting anything.
That's true.
Trust me.
And you talked about before how you make swords.
Yeah, I started kind of blacksmithing on my own, which was basically just sort of at home. I built a bunch of I got to be really good friends with these guys that ran a sword company in New Glarus, Wisconsin, called Albion Armorers, where they had this Swedish medieval historian and blacksmith and bladesmith named Peter Johnson, who designed all these swords for this company that were museum level like recreations, and they manufactured them there. And then Albion, I bought several of their weapons, and which they're not replicas, they're like recreations. They're made so well, and they work really well, and they're flexible and strong and sharp. They're not like the Lord of the Rings swords that you buy off of like eBay for
Right.
$150. They're like actual swords. But basically they did what they called a moat sale, where they had all these like trashed blades or old blades or rusty like things that were not finished, and I bought a ton of it for nothing and just started building my own hilts, like building the handle furniture out of like leather and wood, and sort of like blacksmithing with a very poorly like conceived setup, but it worked. So I started doing it that way. Then and was successful. I was like actually putting these things together, and they were holding together, and it looked pretty good. And then I ended up taking blacksmithing classes in Detroit, and I took about 5 blacksmithing classes and learned to like make wall hooks and calipers and a hammer, and made a couple of little knives, and just all these different things. And then um, ended up actually, like, it came up where there was a class being offered by the guy that was the medieval historian that designed all these swords from the company that I had started buying stuff and got
Nice.
interested in it in the first place. And I got to go study with him for a week and make a sword. And it's just, I love doing it. It's like a hobby for me. That it's one of those things, like, when you paint a room and you sort of zone out and you're not thinking about your problems or anything, and
Hmm.
you can just, or you're like mowing the lawn or painting a room or doing just something that you're concentrating on it, and you can't, like, trying to not mess it up, but you also forget all of your everyday
Right,
problems
you
for
get
a while.
lost
And
in it.
that's what
Yes.
blacksmithing is for me, because when I'm painting, um, or working on something that I have to, like, think in a very artistic way. Blacksmithing, it's artistic, but there's a lot of, like, grinding and pounding
Mhm.
where you're just going forever, and you sort of zone out. And I love just, it's like a poor man's meditation or something.
So, speaking of art, did you went to art school, correct?
I went to an art high school for sculpture,
Mm.
and that's where I met the drummer from Limp Bizkit, who was there for music, and that's how
Mm.
we sort of, he was going there for music, and that's, we were in 2 different bands. But and then I took painting classes afterwards in college for a little while, but then I dropped out of college to pursue the band, and it worked out.
Right. Um, how long have you been doing all? Have you been doing the art for the band the whole time?
I haven't done all the album covers. I did. Fred did the first one. He hired a graffiti artist to do Significant Other, which was the second one. Then I did Chocolate Starfish. I did the Unquestionable Truth. I was out of the band when they did Results May Vary, and that's just like a big green photo of Fred's head.
Hmm.
And then I did Gold Cobra. Yeah, so I've done, I guess, half of them,
Right.
I'd say.
Um, actually, I wanted to talk about the couple of times that I've actually seen you live. It's been, let me think, gosh, 2006, I think was the first time I saw you live at Warp Tour with From First to Last,
Oh, okay.
which that Heroin is one of my favorite albums from back
Oh,
then.
thanks. That was a really fun record to make.
And
Short for me. I was only there for 2 days doing the bass parts.
how did you get linked up with them?
Through Ross Robinson.
Hmm.
My friend Ross, who produced Heroin and also produced the first Limp Bizkit record. He's been one of my best friends for, 2 decades now, and he was just like, "Hey, I'm doing this band called From First to Last, and they just fired their bass player, or he just quit, or I don't remember which
Hmm.
one it was." But he said, "Do you want to come? Just like, do you want to drive up here?" And, like, he sent me the songs, and I just thought of, like, some bass parts and went, "Yeah, I'll come up. Let's do it." And I went up there and met them all, and we, like, jammed for a night and had some drinks and hung out. And then the next day, I recorded. I think in the next 2 days, I recorded all the bass.
Hmm.
In the next 2 days, and wrote it, and just kind of wrote stuff on the fly. And they also had some bass parts already written. But yeah, it was really fun, and it was one of those things where you just have to, like, jump in and really quickly. I love doing that, where I have to just, like, write and be really responsive
Hmm.
to it makes it easy to be really responsive to a bunch of material that's already written,
Hmm.
and just be able to go, like, what if I do this, and how it changes the song,
Right.
or what if I try this, and they were really, we just really clicked.
Hmm.
And then so I left and came back down to LA, because we were recording at Sylvia Massey's studio up in Weed, California, which is right on the Oregon border near Mount Shasta. And I got a call a couple months later, and they went, "Hey, man, can you come play with us just live? What are you doing? And I was out of Limp Bizkit at the time because we were feuding. And I just went, yeah, I'll come. Let's go.
Oh,
And
Josh Balls is in the chat.
hey, Josh.
He said it sounds hot.
Your ears must have been burning because we were talking about you.
We were.
But yeah, it was really fun. It was fun to go tour with a band. It was a different style of music, especially like whenever I play with different drummers, and I've had the opportunity to play with some of the best drummers in the world. And Derek Bloom, the drummer from First to Last, had a different like rhythmic vocabulary than I was used to. So I had to like go, whoa, like I'm not used to accenting notes or landing notes the way that he would push beats. You know what I mean? To where you're like, that's like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you like accent that and then come down? But it was neat because I got to learn a whole new musical vocabulary working with those guys. And you know, I had to pick up and get with it real fast to be able to lock in with him. But anyway, yeah, it was neat to go on tour with, and none of their fans knew who I was at all. You know, and no one knew, like people didn't know I was playing with them. We didn't like make a big, it wasn't like from First to Last with that guy from Limp Bizkit with the black eyes. You know, it wasn't anything like that. It was just like a really fun thing to go back out on the road with a bunch of guys and play.
Right. Those guys are all super talented. Everybody in that band. Yeah. I know Travis Richter did one album with the Human Abstract, and that album is fantastic.
Yeah.
He did vocals on that one.
I know their guitar player, AJ. And it's funny because I knew AJ. AJ's girlfriend at the time was friends with my ex-wife, and they were going to like college together. And I'd met AJ through them being friends, and then knew Travis completely separately. And then they hooked up and started that band. And I was just like, this is a small world. It
really is.
Yeah.
And then that was the first time I saw you live. And the second time was with Blacklight Burns in like 2007, I think it was, or 2008 at one of those like, local radio station's birthday bash type shit.
That was a terrible tour. I know exactly what you're talking about. We had the worst booking agent at that time. And I just was, that whole tour, I was just cursing that guy in my head up and down. Everything was like so poorly executed. I remember showing it. Sorry, I'll let you finish your story.
Oh, it's all good. I'm just trying to think of who was all there. I think it was, Drowning Pool or Buck Cherry was the fucking headliner, and then
I remember the exact. It was like in a basement or something.
It was in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, it was in a big.
It was a big outside amphitheater.
Oh, okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
And,
I was thinking of something else.
Okay. It was who else was there? Show. Saliva, and then the Xyz. The Xyz I really enjoyed, from back in the day. But yeah, it was just like so random.
Was that the show that like our bass rig went out and I asked everyone to hit me with trash?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was literally going to bring that up because in the middle of it, you're just like, throw fucking bottles at me. And it was just like,
yeah. And I was like saying, you guys are pussies. You can't throw for shit. And because I had to do something while we were like trying to fix the bass rig because our bass player was such an idiot at the time. He was like doing heroin and not telling anyone about it.
Oh, God.
Which is awesome, but whatever. Anyway. Wow.
Now
that's one of those shows that like you have to. It really
sticks with you.
Well, it sticks with you because I didn't like it then, obviously, you know, but you have to be on your toe. Like those shows keep you strong. And they keep you like, they carve you into a person that can like, I don't know, get through anything.
Right.
You know, it's just they turn you into to really make you into like a hardened barbarian to where if the worst crap happens live, you can just keep a smile on your face and get through it and, you know, make it work, put on a show somehow.
Now Blacklight Burns came from another band, I thought, the Damning Well.
Sort of. It was the same. It didn't come from that. It was basically Danny Lohner and I were doing the Underworld soundtracks, and we did a couple of songs with Richard Patrick singing on them from Filter and Josh Freese from A Perfect Circle on drums. and it was, or I should say, the Vandals, but he was sort of doing Perfect Circle stuff at the time. But yeah, I mean, Josh Freese has played on every record you've heard,
Right.
probably. Like when you turn on the radio, 9 out of 10 times it's Josh Freese playing on the song you're listening to, but you just don't know it because he's just such a session drummer and so good at just clobbering people's songs and making them, elevating them to a new level. But we did a couple songs, and then I had all these songs, and while we were already set up doing songs at Danny's house, we were like, and this guy Josh Eustace, who's from a band called Telephone Tel Aviv, and he's also a great engineer, and he was also in Nine Inch Nails for a while, and also in Pussifer for a while, which is Maynard James Keenan's third band. We were already working, so I was like, do you guys just want to do this record? I have a record that I want to do, this Blacklight Burns record, and I have almost all of it written, and we just basically maintained the same setup that we were using during the Underworld movies, and just kept it going, and we're using sort of like the same crew. So that's where that story comes from.
I know you guys did a cover album not very long after Cruel Melody came out.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. We did it with like some people who were not the best, and
I really love that album.
It was very like haphazard the way we did it, but I still have like a little soft spot in my heart for it. But it's called Cover Your Heart. Some of the songs are terrible. Some of them I really love. The Sisters of Mercy cover, Lucretia My Reflection, I think was one of the ones that we ended up playing live a lot that people really seemed to enjoy and liked. We got a lot of like, we like your version better than the original, which I was like, thank you so much.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that whole album was, I enjoyed it.
Thanks. It just sonically was a disaster. But yeah, I mean, Cruel Melody, still to this day, everyone that I talk to just gives me so many, they have so much so many amazing things to say about that record and what it did for their lives and stuff like that. So to everyone, thank you. And out of the 4 Blacklight Burns records, that's of course the most popular one. I think, and the most successful song out of all of the records. You would think it's Lie, but it's not. It's Stop a Bullet. Has been licensed so many times, and people seem to just, it was never a single, but it seems to be like everyone's favorite song from that project.
I can't remember if it was Call of Duty maybe, or one of those
Call of Duty licensed it.
Yeah,
like
that's what I thought.
Ghost Protocol or something like that.
Yeah. What about like movies and stuff like that? What kind of movies are you into?
Well, I will say that the 4th Blacklight Burns record is called Lotus Island, and it's an alternative soundtrack to a movie from the 70s called The Holy Mountain, which is a cult sort of following movie by a director named Alejandro Jodorowsky, who did he did The Holy Mountain. Before that, he did a movie called El Topo. So if you like weird art movies with like, it's just every single, to Adam Jones from Tool hit me to, oh, I dropped something. What was that? Oh, a name. Adam Jones from Tool basically said, you have to watch this. You have it. And he had it on Laserdisc at his house. Like,
oh wow,
the old, like this, like the size of a record. And he's like, and it's the best on Laserdisc. We have to watch it on Laserdisc. And he goes, every time I do a project or a record, I watch this movie or a video. And you've seen Tool's videos.
Right.
But those also come a lot from Jan Svenkmeyer, who was a stop motion animator, and the brothers Quay, who did, I know I'm just zooming through all these references.
Oh, it's all good.
Okay. But the Holy Mountain is, if you start Lotus Island, the 4th Blacklight Burns record, and the Holy Mountain at the same time, it does like a Dark Side of the Moon thing with the Dark Side of the Moon Wizard of Oz thing. And I basically did a second alternate score to the first third of the movie. So I didn't do the whole thing. It's just the first third, because the movie, it's like the first act of the movie before it goes into the second act. And then the third act is weird too. But anyway, check it out. The Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky. He was also supposed to do, there's a documentary on him getting tapped to do uh, Dune, which was
Mm.
instead of uh, who did Dune that did Twin Peaks? Why is his name David Lynch?
Oh, right. Yeah.
He originally had the directorial spot locked to do Dune, but he hired the artist that years later ended up doing all of the artwork for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
No, for
nice.
Thor Ragnarok,
Mm.
like all the wild ships and
Hmm.
everything. That's what that was what Dune was supposed to look like. Like all of the
Oh, wow.
artwork and all of the storyboards was all these wild ship designs. And then they were like, nope. And they had H.R. Geiger come in and David Lynch come in and do like the version of Dune that we know
Hmm.
now. But anyway, he's great. That movie's insane. Check it out.
I would definitely check it out. Speaking of that, that actually reminded me of something I saw the other day, where somebody was talking about a book versus its movie counterpart. Are there any movies that you know of where the book was better, or vice versa?
Um, I would say that interesting because I was watching today this morning when I was having my coffee. I was watching this really long um, sort of examination of 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Mhm.
and talking about like hidden messages in the movie. You know, have you ever seen Room 237, the Shining documentary? There's a Shining documentary
Mhm.
called Room
Right.
237 that breaks down like why the Overlook Hotel isn't what it's supposed like. If you watch them walking around, like the architecture doesn't make sense. Like rooms fall into other rooms and they're not,
Hmm.
they would like be overlapping and things don't line up. And they were talking about all these what people think is like continuity errors. Like it'll go from a shot of Jack to Wendy and then back to Jack and something will be missing off his desk
Hmm.
and then go back. Like in Napoleon Dynamite when Kip's on the phone with Napoleon and he's trying to get him to come pick him up from school and he's making nachos and the cheese just keeps getting more every time. Like stuff like that. But not as a joke, more of like a subliminal hidden message. Anyway, I digress. It was talking about how the same time Stanley Kubrick was working with this guy who was helping him screenwrite, who also did the novelization of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and was writing the book at the same time. So it's one of the only times that a book has been written after a movie, like basically referencing a
Hmm.
movie instead of the other way around.
Right.
But so yeah, I have not read the book of 2001: A Space Odyssey, but as far as when it comes to The Shining, I've read a bunch of. I love Stephen King. I've read a bunch of his work, but I felt like Kubrick's version of The Shining, even though Stephen King was super mad about it, was better than the book because it hits it's more a focused story and
Mhm.
he left a lot of stuff out, but it makes more sense and is scarier, I think, than the books.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but then of course Stephen King, like it was
Oh,
a better book than the movie, I think.
did you like the
I
remake?
I did. I thought it was. I mean, it's definitely it. It's scary how dated like the Tim Curry version
Right.
is. That like, it's like like yo, this is really lame. But then like I don't know. Like he wrote. Stephen King wrote The Body, which was turned into Stand by Me, and I've read the
Hmm.
book, the short story The Body, and but Stand by Me, the movie is uh, it's as good in a different way.
Hmm.
I think. I mean, it just there's so much that can be conveyed in a book, obviously that can't be conveyed in a movie. But you know, because there's so much emotion and there's a more narration and description. But you know, in the movie version, you have music in the movie, which I feel always feel like the soundtrack of a movie is there to let you know what the characters are feeling or what
Right.
the
Mhm.
tone of the scene is so that it doesn't have to be written.
Mhm.
And as a musician, that makes a lot of sense for me to pay attention to, 'cause
Right.
that's my thing.
I know the one that I had thought of. I read Da Vinci Code when I was in high school, and the movie to that is nowhere close to as good as the book was.
I haven't read the book. I've seen
It is a really good book. I read that one and the sequel. They are both really good, but I just I don't know. It seems like with movies anymore, I had this talk the other day on the last podcast. Like horror movies in particular anymore, it seems like they're too effects based, like CG based. And then if you go back to like one of my favorite movies of all time is Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. It took the actors to make those movies scary. Right. Like they actually had to do the camera shots properly, and the actor had to actually portray it properly. Do you think that it's the CG is just overdone nowadays?
It depends on the movie, because I think that like when you think about a movie like Jason X, where he's in space and he grabs somebody's face and puts it in like
and smashes it on
liquid
the counter.
nitrogen and smashes it against the counter. I mean, but at that point it's just sort of comedy, to an extent. I think that Ari Aster and the director of Midsummer and Hereditary, I think those movies stand up with The Shining or The Exorcist. Absolutely, to me. I also think The Witch was amazing.
I haven't seen that yet.
Please watch The Witch. It's a Puritan family that's outcast from a town that has to go live by the woods and build their own cabin, and there's a witch in the woods, and things escalate from there. But
I know we watched Hereditary and just whew, man, that movie.
So there's different people making different kinds of movies, and I really liked the Vigil. Is that what it is?
I think that's what it's called. I haven't seen it yet, but
the Orthodox Jewish movie where they have to. I really loved the first half of it, and the second half I did not like as much, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was good.
I'm actually glad that horror movies are getting back to that, because it seemed like maybe like 5-10 years ago it was all about let's put as many jump scares in a movie as possible. The cheap
those don't stick with you. Like they make you go like, oh my god, at the moment, but then they don't. Like after Hereditary, I was like really bothered for a long time by Hereditary. Like that scene where the son wakes up and you can barely see that she's like in the corner up on the ceiling of the room, and you're like, wait, is she up there? And then she just goes like woof, and floats away. That stayed with me for months. I would get the heebie-jeebies all the time just from that one scene.
Somebody in chat brought up the Babadook. I did not like that movie.
You didn't like it?
Something about that little kid annoyed the shit out of me in that movie. I don't know what it was.
I know what it was. I liked the movie, but he was just like, Mama! Just screaming.
That was basically it for me. I was like, God, I can't stand this movie just because of that kid.
I liked the character of the Babadook. I also, somebody just said The Conjuring is I like the Conjuring movies, but they are a little too much in the Conjuring, Insidious world of movies that are all that tone, which is kind of like jump scares and CGI, and I don't like when there's too much reveal on what's coming after the person. Like, okay, the new Blair Witch, like the last Blair Witch they made, where I really liked that, and it got terrible reviews, but I thought that the amount that because they barely show the Blair Witch in the movie just for like a hair of a second, and I was like, ugh. Like it was just enough to where it was just like.
I feel like when they keep you in suspense and then like make you imagine what's going on and you get into your own head, that's when it like scares you most. Is when you don't have, okay, well there's that, so now I know what it is. When you're in that, when you have to guess what's going on, it's worse.
Yeah, there's a really bad horror movie on iTunes right now that I just saw, which was The Toll, which is just out right now. And it has like 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, but don't believe it, man. Do not believe it. They must have like they must have paid a whole like group of bots to go on and just go, this is amazing.
Oh,
'Cause
somebody
it
brought up
is.
Cabin in the Woods. I loved Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, but that has more of like a Evil Dead kind of feel.
Right,
Like
right, right, right.
there's a comedy, a little
Mhm.
bit of a Sam Raimi kind of element to it. Which I loved the new Evil Dead. I thought
Oh
that was
yeah,
great.
that was so
The
good.
remake
Yeah,
of Evil Dead was fantastic.
a lot of those remakes they don't do well. Like I didn't personally enjoy the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Which one? Oh, where they had a new Freddy
Mhm.
that wasn't Robert Englund
Yeah, it was what was his name? Earl
or Ingold,
England. Yeah,
Robert Englund.
I can't remember what the damn it, chat. Who played Freddy Krueger in the new one? I can't think of his fucking name. He was in Watchmen too.
Yeah, it was the guy who played Rorschach
Mhm.
in Watchmen. Same actor.
Jackie Earle Haley. That's what it was.
There you go.
Yes. I couldn't get I just didn't like it, and they turned him from a child killer to a child molester, and it's like just ugh. Now the Friday the 13th remake wasn't bad. I actually thought that was actually pretty decent. It had the dude from Supernatural in it. I didn't think it was all that
And
bad.
there's so many Halloween remakes.
Oh yeah, there's a ton.
Like the Rob Zombie ones, and now the new ones, and the Jamie Lee Curtis one. It's a lot. I actually one of my favorite movies of all time, which is more on the cheesy side of horror movies, but I think it's so good because it was directed by who's the Wrong Turn, the first Wrong Turn
Mm.
with uh, uh, Eliza Dushku.
Mhm.
Eliza, is that right?
Eliza Dushku, yeah.
Eliza Dushku is the star. But the director was the horror. I think it's the actual guy who did all those for all those years, did all those amazing effects. Let's see, Wrong Turn. Oh, the Wrong Turn one. The director was Rob Schmidt. He didn't do it. Okay, I'm wrong. Is this the right one? Yeah, 2003 movie, the first Wrong Turn. But the effects are it's a great movie,
Mhm.
and the makeup is great, and yeah. Oh yeah, Poltergeist is great too. Nick Audio, amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. That's like, I feel like anymore, with other than the like the Hereditaries and stuff like that, it feels like there's not really anything original coming out anymore, and that's why there have been so many remakes. It seems like maybe people just can't come up with decent ideas.
They've been trying to remake movies for years just to make a buck.
Yeah,
They don't have
like
story because people love nostalgia too.
right. Like what was it, Pet Cemetery? They said that they made the newest Pet Cemetery movie strictly because they were going to lose the IP the year after. So they went ahead and made it right before they lost the IP just so they could make money off of it.
Oh yeah, well, I guess I'm a sucker because I saw it.
Yeah,
But
I did too.
Like during the last year plus of quarantine, I've watched like every horror movie there is
Yeah.
to watch. Like I don't know, I feel like sometimes we're like, what haven't we seen yet?
Yeah, that's
So
I feel that. Speaking of Rob Zombie, like I feel like a couple of his movies are good, but then a few of them are like,
I don't really like him.
I liked
I don't.
House of a Thousand Corpses
Yeah,
and the one that came after that, Devil's Rejects. But everything after that's just like,
But even like House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects could have been like cut down. So there's so much.
yeah,
The pacing, I guess, of the movies and the acting. The pacing could have just been like let's get this over with, because it felt like, I mean, I loved the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but then I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. Like it's so hilarious and over the top,
mm-hmm.
and like at the end of the movie when the guy falls off of like the tower down like the slide or whatever, and she's like whipping the chainsaw all over the place. It's like the most hilarious, one of the most hilarious. Like I can watch that over and over again, and just like my side is splitting with laughter because of how crazy it is. But I totally forgot where I was going with this.
Oh yeah, Lords of Salem was awful. Awful.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Awful.
Oof. So the Rob Zombie thing is, I feel like all his movies feel to me, and I love Rob, and he's such a sweet guy, and this is no disrespect to, I guess it is disrespect to him, because this is like no offense, but I just I get it, and I love that I can tell that he loves Texas Chainsaw Massacre too, but all of his movies feel a little bit like that, but not as tight. I wish they were tighter.
Right. Yeah, 100%. What do you think a common misconception that people have about you is?
I think that when it comes to, I try not to like think too much about what people think about me, because it's if I were to, I think I'd go insane if I tried to like worry about what, because they're never gonna like, unless you're like one of my close friends, just like anyone, you're not gonna know, because I'm definitely not always walking around with a wig on, with a mustache and a smoking jacket, like and fake cocaine on my nose, because I just always feel more comfortable in character when I'm dealing with the outside world.
Right.
It's, even though I'm not really in character now, I still, part of me is, because I'm not being just like who I really am. And I don't want to. Like I do want to. I want to share, like, because I like Instagram and I have fun with it and use it for, to promote stuff or for fun or to make jokes or to talk to people. But I don't. I think that misconceptions about me are okay. That's fine.
Right.
Like you can, like, whatever you want to think is what you. I don't know, like, what everywhere, because it's all about biases. Like you can't change what your bias is. Like whatever you've grown up on and whatever happened to you in your life and whatever, like that's how you're gonna, that is gonna be like a filter that affects how you perceive everything. So whatever people think of me, I'm not looking through the same eyes at the world as you are or anyone else is. I've got my own biases, so it's okay. Whatever you want to think, I don't care.
Do you
if you enjoy something I'm doing, great. If you hate it, go fuck yourself. It's fine. Either way, it's fine.
Chat. Does chat have any questions? I've seen quite a few fly by, but does anybody have any questions that haven't actually been brought up yet? That would be another thing.
Let's see. We got the Lighthouse. I have the Lighthouse, but I haven't watched it yet. I don't know why. I can't, like, I'm never in the mood. Whenever I've watched the trailer, I'm just like, oh, do I want to get into this now? It seems so heavy. So I don't know. I have it just sitting there waiting, queued up. I could watch it tonight, but guess what? I don't want to. I want to watch like trashy TV tonight. Like, so I want to watch like Temptation Island.
Oh,
or
geez.
some terrible show like that.
Oh, the wife watches 90 Day Fiance all the time.
God. Yeah, that's happening here at all times. And sometimes I get really into it. Like, I love the guy that everybody makes memes of on 90 Day Fiance.
A little short.
That was just, that was just incredible. That whole thing. I just, and it's so amazing that guy just like shot himself in the foot every single time.
Big Ed, that's what it was.
Yeah, Big Ed. I was like, you're so, like, he's so not attractive, but he seems like maybe he's got like a good heart or is a nice guy. But then, oh my God. And then he'll just go, I'm worried about your breath. Your breath is bad. And I'm just like, dude, look
do you own a mirror?
Yeah. I'm like, anyway, Big Ed, just I thought he couldn't fuck it up, but he did.
Oh, somebody brought up tour dates. We actually talked about that before we started.
Yeah,
there
we got
was one
shows
that
in
was just
July.
announced.
In July, we're
Yes.
gonna go play in July, and I think that we're gonna have a thin side. We usually have like a lot going on my side of the stage with a lot of people packed in. I think that's gonna be a little thinner than
Mhm.
normal. Um, I think that we're gonna still. I think a lot of people, most people, I would encourage to still wear masks at shows. I know we can't socially distance from each other, but you know.
Space Zebra
Uh,
says, Wes, are you a streamer now?
I don't know, man. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's see.
guess so.
Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Chat still. Nick Audio said, "Can you tell us about recording Black Labyrinth?"
Recording Black Labyrinth. Oh, the John. I thought we were talking about Black Mirror for a second. I was like, I haven't been on Black Mirror, but I love that show. Because I want my consciousness to be uploaded to a computer so I can live forever and be immortal, which they did on that show. Anyway, if you haven't seen Black Mirror, go watch it. Black Labyrinth. It was cool, man. It was. I love John Davis. There were some interesting musicians working on the record. I don't remember any of the songs. I did that whole thing that I was talking about earlier when I go into a project or when I work on something that's already kind of happening. I go in and I react to the music and I play a bunch of material and I will forget it. Like I come up with stuff on the spot and record a ton of stuff and sort of go into like a Tasmanian devil cyclone of like writing and working. And then when it's done, like if I'm making a record that way, I have to go back to everything I did and learn what I did. Basically, like I don't have it memorized. After I like write all this stuff, it's like I instantly forget it and it's gone. So I've listened to some of it. I haven't listened to the whole thing. I don't know when I'm playing and when I'm not really on the record. And I guess I could go analyze it more. But yeah, it's a cool group of people. And, I've known John for a long time and he's always been a really sweet guy. And I was happy to do it. Yeah, it was a good experience. I don't remember any of this.
Someone asked, "Are you more of a painter, blacksmith, or guitar player? Which one are you most?"
I'm not sure. Like it changes. I would say between blacksmith is more of a hobby, but I think I'm just more of an idea person, and whatever the tool is to get that idea across. Like if I have an idea in my mind for images that I want to make, whether I do it in Photoshop or whether I paint it or whether I draw it on an iPad or whether it's more of a musical idea, it's like trying to get feelings or different, ideas across and whether it's music or I have to make an object or painting or I think oil painting is the highest form of art to me. I think it is classic. It is, old master technique. I love that. I think it's like the purest form of art because it's there forever, or for as long, it lasts for hundreds of years and people can still go and view the old master's work in a museum, like any of the major museums in the world. And music it's like a lot. It's especially now, it's just so fast.
Oh yeah,
goes. You really have to.
Yeah, technology has made music creating
incredible.
Super fast. Yeah.
Like you better go make OK Computer if you want anyone to buy Radiohead, if you want anyone to know what's you're doing and what you were doing like 5 or 10 years from now. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm flexible.
Do you have a favorite painter?
My favorite painter is an American painter that later moved to Europe and studied over there, who is from like the late 18 to early 1900s, named John Singer Sargent. So yeah, that's my favorite painter.
Somebody asked if you play video games.
I do. I play My favorite video game of all time is Skyrim. I like open world video games. I currently played Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla, which I liked a lot. I like The Witcher 3, all those kind of games like that that are just kind of open world
Mhm.
where you can keep upgrading your character and leveling up and fighting more people and unlocking clues and doing stuff like that. So I can't wait for the sequel to Skyrim to come out.
Right,
I will
yeah.
definitely disappear for a while.
I actually have avoided playing Skyrim just for the sheer fact that I know once I dive into it, it's going to take over my life for months on
Which is
end.
a lot, yeah.
Somebody asked thoughts on Rise of Skywalker and the hate towards the Last Jedi.
I'm a big Star Wars fan, but I think that I think they really dropped the ball on the sequel trilogy. I thought The Force Awakens was okay, even because it was like kind of a reboot of A New Hope. I don't think they should have handed Ryan Johnson the writing. I think there was no arc. They didn't have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they made it up as they went along. So it was like, here's the first movie, and they had no plan for, if you're going to write the first movie in a trilogy, I feel like you need to know what happens in the third movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they, like Lord of the Rings, obviously, they knew that Frodo was going to get the ring and go destroy it in Mount Doom at the beginning of the trilogy. And then in the Return of the King, guess what?
That's what happened.
Frodo throws the ring into the, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings yet.
into Mount Doom. Like, we knew that was going to happen. And and these people who started these characters at the beginning of the movie who were like green and didn't know anything about anything ended up coming back home like all salty and beaten up with like weapons, and we're just like, we did that, we're back. And to the point of where Frodo was so torn up by the ring and that whole journey that he had to go with the elves to like their magical heaven world or wherever they all went, Valinor at the end of Lord of the Rings. But you just don't see that in the sequel trilogy. You know, I think they got lucky with the original Star Wars trilogy because you knew that there was going to be like it was a risk to make the first Star Wars, and then it was like, oh, this did really well, we have to come up with 2 more movies. And they did, and they got lucky, but they did a really good job with like making, subverting your expectations and going like, oh my God, Darth Vader's Luke's father. And then it wasn't until the third movie that they also went, oh, Leia is Luke's sister. And they made those decisions then, but they worked out,
Right.
But the sequel trilogy was so much good artwork in it, so many great ideas. I loved Kylo Ren as a character. It just didn't work. They didn't plan. They didn't. There was no. It was a bunch of like ideas that were hanging on a story that they were making up by the seat of their pants as they went along. The Mandalorian, on the other hand, was just a complete triumph.
So good. Love the Mandalorian.
And the prequel trilogy, I think the story was okay, but the execution, George Lucas, if you've ever watched, I don't know if you know who Red Letter Media is, but Red Letter Media are a group of guys from Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that do movie reviews all the time. They do a show called Half in the Bag. They also have a character that Mike Stolglia, I guess is how you pronounce his last name. He's Polish. Mike, who's like the main guy on Red Letter Media, does a character named Mr. Plinkett that does like 3-hour long in-depth movie reviews, and he does the prequel trilogy, and it is so funny and awesome. And he breaks down why it sucks, and most of it is because George Lucas is directing a bunch of people who are working with nothing but green screens, holding his Starbucks in a chair by a monitor and just going, okay, great, cut, and that's it. Like, there's no like in like wild, like in-depth movie making.
Did speaking of The Mandalorian, a lot of those Disney Plus shows have been fantastic. Did you watch WandaVision?
I thought WandaVision was great. I've watched both episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier so far. I thought WandaVision was so well done, and it feels. I think the first 2 episodes that they released at once were a little weird at first. I was like, what is this? What is going on? But then it, made sense at the end.
Right. Like I feel like that's definitely one of those ones you got to trek through the first couple. Yeah. Before you actually
and then
get
it starts
to
to feel like a Marvel movie.
Right.
But it was so sad. I mean, I was bawling at the end.
So
when they have to say it's like the 3rd time Vision and Wanda have been split up.
Right.
That she's had to like say goodbye to them. It's just terrible.
So were you into all the Marvel movies as they were coming out?
Yeah, all of them.
All of them?
All of that stuff. I am a snob about many things, but not when it comes to Marvel movies. I think that they're so well done, and I love that the amount of artists that get employed by Marvel, like the digital artists and all these guys that are just so incredible. And I follow a bunch of them on Instagram, and they're just like, here's my digital sketch I did this morning just to warm up, and it's like a whole like. Are you fucking kidding me?
A
like,
cityscape.
It's like a whole like cityscape with like a ship flying through it, and they're just like, I'm just warming up today on Procreate, with an Apple Pencil on their iPad. I'm just like, fuck you. But it's amazing, like the amount of work that goes into these movies, and they still make them fun, and they still like let them like say improvisational lines that are, it's not so tight like a Star Wars movie.
Right. Yeah.
Feel as tight.
As far as
it's all
like,
seamless, it all like works together.
As far as like, there's all 3 of the Spider-Men that have been around. Did you enjoy all of them, or?
I like Tom Holland's Spider-Man the best. I think he's the truest to the original comic book character as far as Peter Parker goes. I don't even remember like the middle Spider-Man.
Oh, Andrew Garfield. Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah. And what's funny is the guy that directed those movies directed the first Big Dumb Face video, Duke Lyon, which is funny. Blanking on, I can't remember his name, but I mean, I like the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans were cool. The first 2, the third one got a little weird.
Yeah, I've always thought that the first actual Spider-Man movie it was really good for its time.
Yeah, and Doc Ock was great.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Great character. Yeah.
All right, let's see what else. Favorite Black Mirror episode, and can you give his buddy Reef a shout out?
Reef. He means the Reef is a tiki bar in Palm Springs that I go to all the time when I'm in Palm Springs. So at the Reef. Shout out to my friends at the Reef. We love coming there. It's the best. You're the best tiki mugs. I guess my favorite Black Mirror episode was the San Fern or I don't remember. It was the one where they can upload their consciousness after they die, where everybody just like pays before they die to be uploaded so they can live forever in their younger like visualization of themselves in whatever time they want to live in forever. I don't remember.
Let's see. Captain Slam says, I'm a huge fan of the Unquestionable Truth EP. I think it's extremely overlooked. What was the motivation behind those recording sessions, and was there ever a follow-up material not released?
There is follow-up material that's not released to that. I doubt it will ever be released because we recorded the Unquestionable Truth between when I left the band and when we tried to get back together and it didn't really work. And we were recording with Ross Robinson, and we were not all getting along. And I think that those sessions were very like, there's a lot of irritation between the band members in those sessions, and I don't we were planning on releasing volume 2 of it, and maybe we will one day. Who knows? Anything's possible, but I think we just moved on when we got back together, like, and forgave each other, and we're working together as a band again. We got back together and just made a new record and didn't try to go back and rehash those songs. So now we just have this weird oddball EP called The Unquestionable Truth Volume 1, which is kind of funny, but because there's no Volume 2, but whatever.
I actually have one. Why do you think that Limp Bizkit has been able to last as long as you guys have when it comes to, like, most of the bands from that era really haven't lasted, other than like maybe, I don't know, like Korn is still around, and like Deftones and Slipknot.
Yeah,
that's about, there's really not a whole lot that have been able to continue with the success that they've had.
I think that we've got about 11 charting songs under our belt that were singles that did well, that people that still hold up today. I think that when we play live shows, we don't take ourselves too seriously, and we have a really good time. Like, we have a good time. We're not pretending, like, or we have a bad time. You don't want to go to one of those shows. I mean, they rarely happen, but we just make it a party when we go on stage, and we do covers, and we change our setup all the time. It's never like stale, I don't think. And a lot of that's for us. And I think that when we're really enjoying ourselves and having a good time and joking around and getting along, it makes it work for people. Can tell that that's something that's really happening, that it's not, they can tell that our shows are not determined. Everything happens like on the fly, and things change all the time, and that makes it interesting. And I think that we also just, I don't know. I mean, we so many things happened in that band, and it's one of those things where you can't, like, this is what record executives try to do, like, figure out how, if there's a formula for bottling lightning, and there's not.
Right.
It just happened, and it worked, and it still works to this day. And we've come to now realize that it's gonna work until we're like so old, so much older than we are now. Like, we can continue to do, like, be like Aerosmith or AC/DC and just like keep going and playing shows. And I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, but no matter what, I'm sure we'll figure out a way to make it fun, and we still get to connect with our fans, and it's such a blessing that we get to keep doing this.
And with basically the exact same lineup from the beginning too. That's another thing.
We're still at the original lineup. So
it doesn't happen all that often anymore. It doesn't seem like.
It's us. It's still us. We're not like it's just like the singer with a whole different band. I mean, we've gone through, like, we've had people pop in and out, and
right,
come in and out of the band, but we're back to normal now. Everybody's gone, like, we realize how to make this work now, and we're adults. It took a long time for us to become adults, because when you're in bands, you end up having, like, Arrested Development and basically act like an idiot for like 15 more years longer than you normally would, and then you get it together.
Let's see. Excited Pizza Sauce asks, who would you like to see on Space Zebra?
We're trying to get Ross Robinson, my friend Ross Robinson, on. You mean like on our
yes, on the Twitch. Yes.
Ross Robinson would be great to have on. I'm trying to get my friend Whitney from Southern Charm on, who the Bravo show Southern Charm, because he's hilarious, and he's a gripping great guitar player and just a real son of a bitch. And so we're trying to get him on. I'd like to see, who else are we trying to, I want to get Danny Lohner on, but I asked him, and he said he's can't do it for a month. So all right, bye Danny. He's not coming on right now. When he says a month, it means like 5 months. So I don't know. I don't know. We're not gonna. I doubt we'll get anybody like Elon Musk on, but I'm not sure if I'd want to have Elon Musk on. Maybe we'll get Joe Rogan on or something.
That would be cool.
We had Matty Matheson on, which was like, I wish we had him on Twitch instead.
Oh yeah,
Matty Matheson is so funny.
Are there any podcasts that you're listening to right now that you've really enjoyed?
No, I'm more of like I watch. I'm not really as podcasty as I follow people's YouTube channels that I really love. Like that's sort of my morning. That's how I spend my morning, waking up with my coffee, is watching like YouTube channels I follow, and a lot of them go into like depth about breaking down what happened in episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I'm like,
right.
I didn't watch that. Let's talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, I can't wait for that movie to come
Or I
out.
watch stuff about space and like if when we're gonna colonize Titan, you know, just stuff like that. That there's a black hole in the middle of the universe that's moving. That the universe is going to end with all the black holes eating up everything in the universe and then colliding, and just how, you know, really weird, depressing things about the infinite and overwhelming nature of space and where we are. But yeah.
Let's see. Dusty asks what the idea behind the name of Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water was.
Well, there was a Big Dumb Face song called The Lesson that's never been released. It was like the first Big Dumb Face song. I have a musical project called Big Dumb Face that's like ridiculous kindergarten music meets death metal. But what's the verse? It's this song called The Lesson. It's like, if you think you're badass, come out to the slaughter. Robert just invented hot dog flavored water. That's your lesson. And it's this it's done with this like low tune voice, but I had that for a long time, like just the idea of hot dog flavored water after going into a truck stop and going like, look at all these different flavors of water when I was on tour. And then they had like the hot dogs turning, and it was like 3 a.m, and Fred and I were in there like getting, the whole band was in a truck stop just like in the middle of the night. I was like, they should make hot dog flavored water. And then it was sort of a play on like Sgt. Pepper and the Lonely Hearts Club the Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Beatles album, because we were coming up with a name for it, and I was just like, why don't we just call it hot dog flavored water? And Fred goes, ooh, why don't we call it, because a chocolate starfish basically means a butthole. So we go, why don't we call it Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water, like it's a band? And I went, done. There you go. That's the story. Are you disappointed? That's it.
Let's see. Somebody said Action Bronson would be good for the Twitch.
That'd be good. I love Action Bronson. He might be a little too big.
And then
because we got Matty Matheson on.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
And Jonathan Davis.
We could have Jonathan Davis on. That's a good idea.
Let's see.
Thanks for digging Fever Ray. Great band.
What was your favorite album from the last few months? From just everywhere.
I guess it's the new Death from Above 1979 that came out like 3 days ago. That's a great record. Other than that, I really want to listen to Bobby Krilick's, who also goes by the name The Haxon Cloak. He also scored Midsummer, the movie Midsummer. He just scored a TV show, and the soundtrack's supposed to be insane. So I want to listen to that. I have not gotten around to listening to that yet.
All right. Well, I think that should be it. It's been about almost 2 hours now. Yeah.
Bros?
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate you doing it. It's awesome.
And thanks everybody for dropping in.
Yes, I appreciate everybody being here, and thank you for all the subs and all the follows and everything that have come in today. I appreciate all that. Again, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. You've been one of my favorite musicians for like my whole life.
Oh, that's so nice. Keep going. You're on episode 4. It's just gonna get better and easier from here.
I hope so.
Oh yeah.
All right.
It is.
Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
All right. Out.
Yep. See ya.
See you guys later. Bye.